with your host, Mr. Antoine Wade. And tonight we have another special guest, a brother of mine, Mr. Andrew Murphy. Andrew Murphy is a product manager for HPE, and I met Andrew in grad school at the Georgia Tech. We did our MBAs and completed our MBAs together. So, Mr. Andrew, how are you doing tonight, man? Tell everybody how you're doing.
I'm doing great. I'm getting repeat.
You're getting a little bit of feedback? How you doing, Ned? Can you hear us? I can't hear you, Andrew. All right, so hold on.
Can you hear me now?
I
All
can,
right, there
I
you go.
can
Better?
hear you now. That is wonderful.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right. I'll
So
speak
tell
up a
everybody
little
how you're
better.
doing.
I'm doing fantastic. So, like I was telling you earlier, I'll get into a little bit of my background, but I am about 24 hours away of going back to the beautiful city of Atlanta to see my wife and kids, right? And as we'll get into later on, kind of how I got out to California where I live now. But it's been a long 9 months, right? Enjoying the work that I'm doing, but basically, I will get the opportunity to move my family out here in 2 weeks
Yep.
and get to be together. So I'm looking forward to telling everybody the story and kind of how I got out here. So thanks for having me, man.
Awesome, man. Awesome, guys. You know how we do this, guys. We like to get to know the folks that are on the live cast, spending their time with us, and you know how we do that. We do that playing a round of this or that, and we are going to get a chance to know a little bit more about Mr. Andrew Murphy. He did tell you that he's going to be flying to Atlanta in a couple hours. So let's start off with the first question. Andrew, you ready, man?
Oh yeah, let's do it.
World of Coke or Georgia Aquarium?
Aquarium.
Okay. East Coast or the West Coast?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Ooh. I'm gonna have to go with. I love the East Coast, man. I love the East Coast.
Got it. Got it. Okay. This is a good one. Bernie Sanders or Donald Trump?
Ooh. Can I take a pass?
There's no such thing as passes, brother.
No, no such thing as a pass. You know what? I'll have to go with Bernie Sanders then if I have to take a pick.
All right. All right. Chick-fil-A or In-N-Out?
In and out.
Listen to music or read a book?
Read a book.
Okay. Stay in or go out?
Go out.
You travel quite a bit. LA or New York City?
New York.
Beer or liquor?
Bourbon.
I love it. I love it. Have a live
Yeah, we
rewind.
still we still have to we should have brought the bourbon for this. It'd be a great time. Even
Yes,
better.
I would agree with that. I think that may have to be something I introduce to the show every once in a while. We're not going to call it a on the journey. We're going to call it something else. Have a good time
The
or bourbon
sponsorship
nights.
opportunity. That's right.
That is it. That's it. Okay. Have a life rewind button or have a life pause button.
I'd say pause.
Okay. Professor Debbie Turner or Professor Matt Higgins.
Ooh, they're both awesome. Um, Got to go with Debbie. I'll
Okay.
never forget that episode that she kicked the was it the Falcons player out of the parking spot. I'll never forget that. And I have a huge amount of admiration and respect for how she conducted the class and just her discipline. So, yeah, I don't think I'll ever forget either one of them. But if I had to pick one, Debbie Turner.
I would agree with that, man. I would agree with that. Would you rather have more time or would you rather have more money?
Time.
Sweet tea or unsweet tea?
Unsweet tea.
Georgia Tech or UConn?
Of course. Well, since I'm talking to you, I'll say Georgia Tech.
It depends on who you talk to, right?
It depends on who I talk to. It depends on time of year, right? So if it was March, I'd probably say something different.
Yep.
But since we're baseball season, then I'll go with Georgia Tech.
Got it. Got it. Okay. A couple more. Meet your let me repeat that. Meet your great grandparents or meet your great grandchildren.
I think great grandparents.
Okay. Okay. No one shows up to your wedding, or no one shows up to your funeral.
No one shows up to the funeral.
Okay. All right. And the last one is have world peace or stop world hunger.
World to have world peace.
Ooh, I love it. I love it. Okay. Guys, as always, you know how we do it in this show. Thank you all for tuning in tonight, whether on your YouTube or whether on Facebook. Let's make this show interactive. We're going to be asking Mr. Andrew Murphy to tell his story and also talk about a career in product management. So if you have any questions, please do feel free to send a chat and we'll try to get to some of those questions when we see them. So let's start off with the first question, my man. And Andrew, tell everyone your journey. Who is Mr. Andrew Murphy?
Sure. So obviously to everyone, my name is Andrew Murphy, right? But the great part about this is that Antoine really has no idea what's coming because we've only known each other for the last few years,
That's
right?
right.
So my story began in a small town called New Fairfield, Connecticut, and New Fairfield is a great place to grow up. It's right on a lake. I think when I grew up there was about one traffic light, and a moment that we will never forget is when the Starbucks opened up.
Mm.
And it's basically an hour outside of New York City. Great place to grow up. But I grew up playing sports, so I was very competitive growing up. I have an older brother, younger brother, so I'm the middle child with all the different complexes. But was very fortunate to grow up in a town, get to grow up playing sports and get to be part of that community.
Hmm.
Um, so I grew up playing baseball, got involved with Little League and coaching and tried to get involved with sports just because I always had a passion for it.
Yep.
And so I actually played baseball and was hoping to go to play college baseball. And so I actually tried to walk on at University of Connecticut
Hmm.
when I went there and just didn't have what it took. But the great part was that I was able to find some roles within the athletic department there to really just kind of stay close to the business of sports, learn how it operates, get different. Uh, we're outside of New York City,
Yep.
so Fairfield County in Connecticut. So if you are familiar with the Southeast train station, that's how we'd get into New York. So it's a great area, especially during the fall time. It's hard to beat.
Yep.
So when I was at UConn, I had worked. Actually, my first year there was working in the library, which was great. Just kind of taught me the value of actually getting familiar with all the different books, and certainly helped to pay off later on. But the thing I enjoyed most about going to the university was I got to play. I was on the practice squad for the women's basketball team.
Okay.
So if you know anything about women's college basketball,
Yep.
UConn is pretty well known, right?
Yep.
So I got to be basically a practice dummy for some of the best athletes in the world, and it was a huge honor and opportunity that my older brother hooked me up with. And I really got to see, I had great coaches and managers and different work and things like that, but to see Coach Gino Oriema and how he worked with his players and kind of broke them down as freshmen coming in, these great athletes and built them up to be part of a team was something that I don't think I'll ever forget.
Well.
And it kind of left an impression on me because as a practice player, basically, you can shoot, you can guard, but the goal there is basically you need to be punctual. You need to be able to take a pounding, because those women are very very strong. They will absolutely school you. They schooled me plenty of times, but it was a blast. And so the thing that I take away there is that no matter where you are on the sidelines, you get to actually kind of observe some really great things around you and always have an opportunity to learn from.
Yep.
And so that always kept me close to sports. I actually ended up doing a couple internships because at that point when I was at UConn, I wanted to get into professional sports and work in the back office, general management. Did I get dunked on? No, but Diana Taurasi schooled me and made a three-pointer falling out of bounds, and of course just made it look easy. So I think I also got a black eye too, because one of the centers was just phenomenal, and I was in the lane and she wanted to score. So, but it was a blast there.
Wow, that's an amazing story at UConn. So I just want to back up really quick. You said something, Andrew. You said your brother hooked you up with that opportunity. Talk about that. How did you get that opportunity to work or to join the practice team for one of the best college basketball teams in the world? How did that happen?
So it was as I honestly don't know how my brother got connected with it, but
Okay.
my older brother Ryan, he was there 3 years before I was,
Okay.
and he got connected with the women's basketball team, and always always heard great stories about just the interaction, and obviously it's great exercise, great experience,
Yep.
and then they were looking for just some warm body to go and get beat up, and I was a sophomore and available and punctual. So it just kind of worked out really well.
And you can take a pounding, obviously.
Yeah, it was great, man. I mean, it's little things like that when you don't really appreciate it until you have the chance to look back on it. But clearly, it's something that I still think of, and it does also didn't hurt that they took care of you with different swag gear, right? So you
Yep.
have
Yep.
sneakers and shorts, all that stuff. And when you're in college, you'll take any advantage you can get, right?
Yep. Yep.
That was a great experience there.
Awesome. Awesome.
And
Awesome.
so now, what you're probably wondering is how did I get into tech, right? And that's
How do you go from UConn, right, and
yeah,
wanting to pursue a professional sports career, and then going to
yeah.
University or Georgia Tech for an MBA?
Yeah. So like with most things, it starts with a girl.
Okay, okay. Talk about that. Talk
So
about that.
yeah, yeah. So it was right after my sophomore year of college, and I still wanted to get into professional sports. And so, again, my older brother actually told me about the benefit of doing internships. And so, between my sophomore and my
Mm,
junior year, I actually did a minor league baseball internship in Stockton, California. So not too far from where we are now.
mm-hmm.
And the Stockton Ports, so they're a single A affiliate for the Oakland Athletics. And I got to do, I'm not kidding, man, everything with the exception of actually put on a uniform. So
Wow.
whether it's rolling a whole bunch of hot dogs, be a mascot, do ticket sales, be the guy on the field with the microphone, getting the crowd ramped up, the guy like at the Braves games. I
Mm-hmm.
did that for a summer in Stockton. And
Wow.
that was just a great learning experience to just kind of get out of your comfort zone,
Yeah.
not be afraid to take a couple chances because I grew up as an introvert, still consider myself one, but you can just have a lot of fun when you kind of step out and try new things. And so from Stockton, I went back to UConn and then decided I want to do another internship because I still want to get into sports.
Yeah.
And found a gig in Augusta, Georgia, with the Augusta Green Jackets, right? So named after the Green Jacket from winning the Masters. And did that and did pretty much everything there with the exception of playing a game.
So that's
But
two. So Andrew, let me just jump in real fast. So that's two internships already at the University of Connecticut.
yes, two
Wow.
unpaid internships.
Wow.
So something to
Wow.
brag about. Yeah, yeah. Shows that I guess they'll hire anybody for free, and I was certainly willing to take it on.
Mm,
But my favorite thing that I did at in Augusta was actually I was walking around. I'll never forget it. I was it was back. It's minor league baseball, right? So they try to make as much do as they can.
hmm
And I was walking around with a PDA, a Palm Pilot, and was doing customer satisfaction survey, and happened to talk to my now father-in-law. And he had no interest in talking to me because I was just some intern, but he introduced me to his daughter, my future wife. And so I asked her how the game was going. She ended up offering to teach me how to line dance. And then I had to go back to Connecticut to go to my senior year. But before I did that, we uh, we decided to date long distance.
yeah,
And then I did my senior year, went through that, and basically was looking for any company to pay for me to move to Georgia because I was moving to Georgia either way, and I just was trying to find somebody to offer a ride there.
yep,
And I fortunately got hooked up with HPE because I ended up actually changing my major and focus from sports management to marketing at the recommendation of one of my mentors in Stockton, and ended up doing marketing, doing sales, and then HP, fortunate enough, hired me out of college and moved down to Alpharetta,
hmm
and then worked in technology sales, and eventually found my way into to Georgia Tech. So it's been great. I mean getting into technology, getting into the business, and then especially a company like HP. I mean, I'm actually my second stint here, but you get so many opportunities to kind of learn the business, and I've kind of landed in product management.
Yeah.
So it's, yep,
Wonderful, wonderful. That's a great story, Andrew. And I want to talk a little bit more about those internships and the importance of doing internships. You did two unpaid internships. You were really adamant about being in sports management. Then you switched it to marketing and getting some advice from someone at your internship. Talk about first, before we jump to you switching your role or your degree, but the internships and the importance of doing them. I know your brother told you about that, but tell everyone
yep.
that's watching, especially if they're in university or something like that, the importance of doing those internships and the unpaid ones as well.
Yeah, it's hard to think about now about why those internships. I think I wanted to. I read a whole bunch of books, and just talked to different people in different walks of life in sports. And the thing that made it crystal clear is that, like being a professional athlete, there's a lot of people that want to work in sports.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to work where everybody wants to work, you got to be willing to pay your dues. And one of the things that was made perfectly clear to me by folks at UConn and folks like my brother was that you start as an intern, and some internships are paid. The ones that I picked were not paid. I was fortunate enough to where I could get enough hours at UConn to basically cover my living costs,
Mm-hmm.
and the teams also provided housing or things like that. But I think the important thing is that people. So internships are great in two ways. One is because typically it's fresh blood that comes into an organization that has their typical daily processes and stand-up calls and meetings, all those kind of things, and bringing somebody that has that energy of an intern seems to jumpstart the folks around. Obviously, you pick up a lot of remedial tasks and things like that, but you get exposed to things that you otherwise wouldn't have. I remember one of the guys that ended up becoming my mentor. He had me organize his business cards alphabetically. I think just to see if I was willing to do what was needed, do what was asked. And you know, I'm ashamed to admit that it took me twice to do it, but
That was
I
a
think that no matter
test.
how I did, it was a test to see what was I willing to do.
Yeah.
And I had a motto that I would say yes to anything that was legal. And it was a great opportunity to get exposed to so many different things. I mean, I never would have thought that you hand me a microphone in front of 5,000 people at a Stockton Ports 4th of July game, that I could actually do it, right? That you could see me dancing on a dugout with a mascot. Look up Splash from the Stockton Ports, and I was splashed a couple nights too. It's really hot in Stockton, so you can imagine. But it's just, you only live once. So sometimes to get the experience, you got to be willing to pay the price of not getting paid,
Mm,
and figure out a way to make it work.
mm.
And it's kind of worked out in that favor.
That's amazing, right? Because in my career, when I was in university as well, too, I did an unpaid internship into my senior year. So it was the end of my junior year. And that helped me tremendous as well. And it was unpaid. And I did have a part-time job before, which I had to quit to do the internship. And what that internship did for me, Andrew, was it just gave me exposure. And not only that, it was something to give me to put on my resume that I do have experience working in a corporate environment. So I honestly thought that it was a great learning experience for me. And I think the majority of people who are in university, they should do an internship. If it's unpaid, it's unpaid. You have to get that experience. It certainly does help. And yes, you're going to be, tried and true. You may have to shuffle some business cards and put them in order. But it is
If
something
somebody
that
gives you business cards to shuffle these days, then it's just plain torture. Because I don't even see business cards anymore, man.
I carry some every once in a while, Andrew. I must say that. I'm an old man. Let's jump to the chat real fast, and then we're going to continue on. How you doing, Curtis? How you doing, SOBC? Mr. Frieza said, I worked in Connecticut and Hartford. Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Curtis Davis, yes, UConn. I was going to ask about Tarazi. Yes, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yep. All right, what is up, Mr. Rowe? How you doing, sir? Guys, thank you so much for joining the chat, of course, and ask any questions. We're getting ready to go into the role of product management. Tell people, Andrew, what is it that you do today and what you've done in the past at HPE or just after Georgia Tech or either before you
Yeah.
went to Georgia Tech? Because I'm sure you took a break in between UConn and Georgia Tech as well. Talk about
Yeah,
your
yeah,
roles.
sure. So my professional career in technology started off in inside sales, and
Okay.
so it was a step above being an intern.
Yeah.
But I had a really, and you'll hear a consistent theme for me in my journey is that I've been incredibly fortunate to have different mentors and leaders and managers to
Mm,
tell me that give me the stripped down truth, and I'll never forget, and I love the company I work for, and they did a fantastic job recruiting me. And just like most times when a company recruits you, they tell you all the shiny things. They don't necessarily tell you about things that are less shiny. But I was fortunate that the way that it works at HP, and I'm sure at most tech companies, is that you have an inside sales rep that covers a territory. My territory was Georgia, and I had supported some senior account executives that had been in the industry for decades.
mm,
And you come out of new hire training, you're all pumped up, you're ready to go, and then quickly you get hit in the face with reality when you realize that customers really don't like cold calls, but you
mm,
still have to dial them. Account managers have plans, they have quotas, and the key is to figure out how can you be valuable to them so that you can help them achieve their goals, and along the way they'll help you achieve yours. And I bring that up because one of the things I was first told to me when I made the wrong call to a customer was, things. I'm trying to think of the best way to say this without getting muted. But basically, everything rolls downhill,
yep.
right? And at the bottom of the hill, at the bottom of the valley, at the bottom of a ditch somewhere is where the inside sales reps need to work their way up and become stronger and to learn and become capable. But to think that you start at the top of the hill, like you may come out of new hire training, um, it takes work, and it's not as easy as it seems.
Yep.
And inside sales is a critical function, and I love the opportunity to get in front of folks and just let them know that they're a critical part of the process. And if you find those people that mentor you, you can turn that into a great springboard for your career. And that's what I did. I mean, I worked my butt off, got into outside sales, and supported various customers selling data storage products. So basically, every laptop has a drive, right, a hard drive spinning that, or an SSD. My job at that time was to basically sell very large systems that had hundreds or thousands of these drives so that the world's information could be available to be used.
Okay.
And so I sold for a while, loved it, covered some accounts that had me travel around, but I knew I wanted to do something different. And so that's when I applied to the Georgia Tech program, and I needed something that would travel less, just based on the rigor of the program. And so at that point in time, I was able to get a role in marketing and get a role in program management, where basically my job was to work to drive new sales by bringing in multiple customers into different briefing centers around the country and tell them about our strategy, and try to create new revenue streams from those accounts. And so I did that during the term of the program, which was great. And again, had great mentors and learned a whole lot about the business from that side.
Yep.
But then after Georgia Tech, an opportunity came up where I was actually able to go into the channel and work for my old sales director who had supported me for years at HP. And again, so for those that aren't familiar with technology and sales, our go-to-market is both direct and indirect. Direct in the sense that we'll sell directly to Antoine Incorporated or Coca-Cola, but for us to be able to get that scale and to be able to grow globally and grow fast, we leverage a channel partner.
Yep.
And we have thousands of them around the world. We have channel partners that buy from distributors and all that fun stuff. But I got to actually work in the channel as a sales rep and learn from probably my best sales manager, and to be able to learn about how does the channel work, what is it like when you don't have the brand of an HP on your badge. I had a phenomenal badge at a company called TSA, Technical and Scientific Application, but it's not what HP is. And so
Yep.
when you're trying to build new relationship with new customers, that badge makes a big difference, and you have to fight a whole lot harder to differentiate yourself. And so that was a great experience to learn that. Also, they're classified as a small business, and to go from HP, which when I first started and it was one company, was $126 billion and 300 some odd thousand employees,
Yep.
to a company of, they're private, so don't know the revenue, but a lot smaller, and maybe 100 people. But it's just two very different things, and get that sense of how do our partners, who are just as well as our customers, do business.
Yep.
And then, so flash forward to today, product management. And to be honest, I didn't really know what a product manager did before I got later in my sales career. And what attracted me to this role was I love to solve problems. That's what gets me excited every day. That's what I enjoyed about sales, the competitiveness, the idea of winning. And I love to be able to take a customer problem and be able to fix it either with the product or optimize a process or work out some kind of deal or program where they were able to get what they wanted to get done, and we were able to maximize value for them.
Yep.
And what product management allows you to do is to do that at a global scale. And it sounds great, and it is great, but there's also a whole lot more complexity to it than I ever imagined. But that's what gets me excited every day to come in, is that every day I'm learning something different.
Yep.
And whereas most of my time in my previous roles if we were to break down, a pie chart of how the time is spent, 80 to 90% of it was when I was a sales rep, customer related activity or customer support activity. And the rest of it was internal administration, things that we just have to do. But in this role, I would say that 20% of my time is in front of customers. But then I rely heavily on working with different folks within our company and also with our engineers, who are the best in the world, to actually design the products, right? So to figure out where's the market going? How do we
Mm-hmm.
develop products and solutions that we can address those trends in the market? And then how do we bring them to market? Because my experience has been primarily North America based, and so this is a worldwide role that I'm in. And the thing that I love about it, one of the many things, is that there's so much that I don't know about doing business internationally that I get to learn about, whether it's Brazil tax laws, and some of the things that go on there, or if it's how the go to market in the Middle East is different than that in North America, or at what point in time do technologies get adopted, right? So typically North America leads the wave, and then um, Western Europe picks it up next, and then the wave kind of goes across the East.
Yep.
And just all these things that you get to have a hand in playing, and try to solve customers' problem on a global scale. That's what I enjoy most about what I do.
That's interesting. So it's I'm going to take two steps back, and we're going to jump forward real fast. One of the things that you constantly said, Andrew, was you had a lot of mentors and you had a lot of leadership. And I want to get to that, but let me just do 1 second. Let me jump on the chat real fast. What's up, Jordan? How are you doing, Mr. Taylor? Thank you guys so much for joining in. Let me see if we have any questions on here. Mr. Rose said, experience can pay better than money. Yes, absolutely.
Completely
Hey,
agree.
Step, how are you doing, sir? He said he's currently inside sales, looking to move up right now, going to night school for
Right
his
on.
BBA. Absolutely.
Right
Sales is a
on.
great, how would I say it, a role that you can have within a large corporation, and you can make a lot of money doing it too.
And inside sales, man, I mean, they're so critical to the process. And you can, as an inside sales rep, you can spend so much time to kind of understand the mechanics of how the company works.
Yeah,
And once you know that, then you can actually make decisions faster on behalf of your customers. Or you can just bring a sales perspective to other view of the company. So inside sales is such a critical role in any company.
absolutely, absolutely. Good evening, Mr. Wilkerson. Thank you so much for joining us from Qatar, man, or Doha. There you go. So, Andrew, we talked about the mentors and leadership, and you said it a couple times. Talk about the importance of having those mentors and leaders who you were connected to. And how did you learn about needing mentors and leaders to help you springboard your career?
So um, they're invaluable. I mean, it's just that it's that simple. And at first, if I think back to my first mentor, it was probably some of my coaches growing up in baseball, and you just learn
Mm,
from them.
yep.
And you just ask them, "Hey, coach, how do I hit this better? Hey, coach, what am I doing wrong?" Um, you know, I think that one of my childhood coaches and my neighbor's dad was really great about just kind of teaching me some of the basic things on sports, and just trying to make the most of every opportunity. that you're given there. But then as you kind of go through the university and through your career, you're kind of lost, right? I mean, and you just kind of realize that, all right, I need help. And
Yep.
I don't know what clicked, but you come to realize that at some point in you at some point in your CEO's career, at some point in your VP's career, they were just starting out too, right?
Mm,
They were
mm,
a 22-year-old that came from some university, and there's different universities, different paths, and you can go straight out of high school or no degree. I mean, I know one guy that I work with is, I think he graduated high school, went into the military, and has had a phenomenal career. I mean, there's so many different paths, and you can get these perspectives that can help you save a lot of pain.
mm,
I mean,
mm.
it's one of the ways that I like to operate is that I'm going to get my own scars and bruises, but I love to learn from others first, because there's going to be no shortage for me to get along the way.
Yep.
And what you also find is that when you ask for help, very few times I've actually been told no, because I think most people, if they've been given a mentor, if they've had the opportunity of having a mentor, then they understand that it's important, it's valuable, and they try to pay it back to those people, because one, it's harder to get anywhere alone, but it also, just similar to like how an intern kind of invigorates a stoic organization, or an organization that is just kind of operating at status quo. Sometimes having that mentor-mentee relationship can also inspire you to try different things.
Mm, mm.
And so I don't know if that answered your question, man, but
It does.
even today, I have mentors in product management and in marketing, and outside of the company, and I couldn't be more appreciative of what they've given me.
Got it. Got it. No, no. I like what you said there, Andrew. It can help you save a lot of pain because you know you're going to get your own bumps and bruises. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely
Yeah.
right.
There's no
It's
shortage of pain.
no. You're absolutely right. It's being able to call a leader of yours who is a mentor of yours within your organization to run something by them is invaluable. There's a lot of things that goes on within the sales roles itself where we go through a lot of negotiation, and I can quite honestly say I'm not a very good negotiator, and my wife would actually tell you that, right? So getting that insight, getting that coaching, getting that help to be able to become a better negotiator in these sorts of meetings is very invaluable. You're absolutely right. Having somebody within the company and having mentors like that has your back is wonderful. Let's jump forward real fast. We're going to talk about product management. You gave us a really good definition of product management, but let me try to explain it and let me see if I captured it. A product manager, to me, sounds like a CEO of a product line, a technology, or something like that. I mean, like they do things like, the marketing, they help with the sales, they help with, obviously the development of the actual product itself, the testing, and all that stuff is at a high level. Andrew, is that what a product manager is?
So it's close. So I
Okay.
wouldn't say that it's a CEO of a product, just because I've read enough things to say that we shouldn't call ourselves that.
Yep.
And so
But
I
you
don't
are.
know it's a fair. No, I would not say that. But so product management and product marketing are different. The best way to sum it up shortly is if you were to ask a customer, hey, what kind of product do you want to build?
Okay.
They would give you 100 different requirements and say, hey, I want it to do everything. The reality is that there's finite resources in marketing, there's finite resources in supply chain, there's finite resources in engineering in my business, because we're technology. And so the question is, how do you prioritize those requirements to develop a product? And so we
Mm,
do the market assessments, we collect those requirements, we talk to customers, we talk to partners, and then we become that driving force to then communicate those requirements to those stakeholders.
mm,
And we work incredibly closely. I mean, we have no authority, but we need to set a vision and help to advise our partners, our value chain partners. What do we think the business needs, and to have the data to support that? Because just like we have our products that we want to build, there's also a number of other products and programs that are being asked from other parts of the company. And
mm.
so it's our job to be our champion. I think that's we're our champion, our cheerleader for our products, and we need to take that all the way through finance, through post sale support, customer success, as you certainly are familiar with.
Yep.
And yeah, we are the tip of the spear. So we are what gets hit on impact.
Got it. Got it. Got it. No, that makes a lot of sense. That's exactly the role of the product manager in our organization as well, and we're a software company. So let's go to the chat with us. SOBC had a good question here. What's the difference between these roles? A product manager versus a project manager. You want to answer that, Andrew?
Yeah, sure. So in my world, a product manager owns the product, right? So again, think of my product as a really big laptop.
Hmm.
So I'm responsible for ensuring that that laptop meets certain qualifications, that it performs as you need it to, and all those kind of things. In order to do that, in order to get a product to be whole, projects are needed to get there. And there may be 5, 10, 50, 100 projects that go into a product.
Yep.
And so therefore you will have a project manager that's responsible for a project and helping to bring these different value chain partners together to ultimately deliver on a final product.
Got it.
Does that
Got it.
make
Yeah.
sense?
Makes sense to me, man. It makes sense to me. SOBC, I hope that answered your question. Mr. Frieza, how old were you when you got your first PC, Andrew?
Oh gosh. I think our first family computer, I remember it was Diablo game on it. I don't even think that it was a brand at that time. Whatever it was, maybe 12,
Wow. Okay. Early. That's
maybe.
very early.
I
Yeah. Very good.
maybe that's what I'm thinking. So I remember that I was really worried when Y2K was happening that I wouldn't be able to get on the internet.
Yeah.
So I know it was before then, and I was 13 in '99. So you can do the math.
Andrew is very young, guys. Okay. Let's talk about this, Andrew. For uh, the skills required to be considered a product manager, or anything, or someone who wants a career within product management. What are kind of the three most important things that they need to do to prepare for such a career? I see your role. You kind of talked about inside sales, then outside sales, and then indirect sales, channel sales, and
Mm.
that's how you became a product manager. What are the three most important things that you would give somebody who wants to get into the product management role?
Sure. So I think that my path to product management was atypical. There's a number of folks that have sales experience and in product management that I look up to and try to learn as much as I can from them. But the great thing about product management is that you have folks that come from all different walks of life. And so you have people that have engineering backgrounds, sales backgrounds, some have
Mm.
marketing backgrounds, some are project managers. I think that the biggest thing, so if I were to say three things for product management, I think the first that you have to be good about communication, because going back to what I said earlier about there's always competing priorities and resources, right?
Mhm.
So people want to work on things that's valuable and that has meaning and that's driving towards a bigger vision. And so you need to be able to communicate that in such a way and compel people, but at the same time compromise when you get hit with the realities of the day-to-day business. And so I think that being able to communicate is one thing that's important. The Also, I would say the ability to analyze and be good about analysis,
Mm.
whether it's market analysis, internal pricing analysis. That's the other thing that we get to work on. We get to partner with folks in finance around how to set pricing,
Okay.
right? And how do you do it to optimize value and optimize the business towards the financial goals that we have. And then I think that number three is you have to have a curious mind,
Mm.
because it is, I'm trying to think the best way to say it. I really love what I do, but there's a lot of things that are not my favorite things to do during the course of the day, but they have to get done. But if you are curious about how to learn more about them and find ways to reach out to different parts of the business to find ways to accomplish goals faster,
Mhm.
or to be curious enough to come up with a new idea, a new approach, or see if there's another way, another part of the business or another company in your industry that's had a similar problem they had to solve, and they took a different approach to what you're taking today. You have to be always curious about
Mhm.
how you can take in new information and resources to try to solve those problems.
Mm.
And so I think that that's what I would view as being a very good product manager, um, at least based on my experience of doing so.
Got it. Got it. No, that's good. That's good. Communication skills, analytical skills, and a curious mind. And I think that's where the engineering comes in at, right? Wanting to solve problems and coming up with different ways to do so. SOBC said, so does a project manager report to a product manager?
So in our organization, the project managers that we work with, first of all, I think that product managers we work on behalf of our customers, right, and our value chain partners. But um, so our project managers roll up to engineering,
Okay.
and so research and development engineering. That's where our project managers fit.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Okay. So in Andrew's organization, no, that would not be the case. But in a lot of organizations, whether you're in the consumer product goods and stuff like that, I know a lot of product managers who actually do have the role as a CEO and don't mind it actually being the kind of title, right? Because they're responsible for the product. And at the end of the day, I think Andrew's being a bit humble. He does own the product and he's responsible for the go-to market. And it is a very, very, very important role and a lucrative role within corporations today. Tamara said, this is my sister, Andrew. As a product manager, how do you deal with product failure or negative feedback on a product? It's a good
Yeah,
question, man.
so it's a fantastic question, and so I think this is one of the areas where I think career in sales has helped me because, as you know, Antoine, rejection
Mm.
is a part of sales.
Yep.
Actually, you're killing your number, so maybe you've never been rejected, but I can tell you that I've been rejected plenty of times, and you try to separate. So first off, you can't take it personal,
Yep.
and I always try to put myself in that customer's shoes, right? And usually first off, if I objectively, I ask myself, is the customer right, right? Because ultimately, perception's reality, right? So if the customer perceives there's an issue, then they view that there is an issue, and that's what we face. And so try to figure out, okay, what is the issue? What's the kind of the pressure that the customer's under? Because the customer has a boss, and why is that customer's boss on that customer, and why is that customer coming to me? And then ultimately, how can we fix it? So I try to first off remove the emotion from it, which is hard because you work really, really hard
Mm.
to bring these products to market, and you know how hard all your value chain partners are putting in the time to bring these things to market. And so you hate when these customers have feedback, but that's the reality of life, and that's especially in high tech. Um, so the question is then, how can you take that information and turn it into something positive?
Mm.
And so negative feedback comes with the gig, but I also view it as if a customer takes the time to tell you what's wrong, then they want it to get better,
Mm.
because
Mm.
you can't fix what you don't know about.
Mm.
And so I would much rather have a customer that's loud and screaming than a customer that just suffers in silence and doesn't say anything. Because I can also tell you that as a seller, those accounts that became my largest and most successful accounts were those that typically had an issue. We fix the issue because issues come up,
Yep.
but they can count on us to fix them. And so I think that as a product owner, customers don't expect things to be perfect, but they expect that if there's a problem, you fix it. And
Mm.
so I view that every piece of negative feedback is an opportunity to do that.
Awesome.
I
Awesome.
hope that helps.
No, I think that's good. A lot of the times, depending on the kind of product it is, it's like telling a baby that you created that it's no good or it's not pretty, right?
Oh,
It's
it hurts. It hurts, man. But again, would you rather know about it or would you rather not? Right? You can't fix what you don't know about.
I would rather know about it. How you doing, Mr. Larkins? Thank you for joining, sir. Um, let's move on to a couple other questions here. So let's talk about your experience, Andrew, with diversity initiatives in corporate America. What do HPE does, or what do they do for within the realm of diversity in your experience there?
Sure. So diversity has been a big thing for HPE for many, many years. And so even I think from what was it? I think it was back in the late 80s. They were one of the first companies in the Valley to really try to bring about encouraging women to get more involved,
Yeah.
to really sponsor women into the technology industry back in the late 80s. And even more recently, opening up to multicultural, multiracial, multigender programs that are really key to innovation.
Hmm.
And so there's a lot of programs, and whether it's events or development programs that HPE is a part of, and I think that although every industry needs it, but I think that there's been enough data shown about the valley and the tech industry where there is a thirst, there's a need to just infuse a lot more diversity into the industry.
Mm, mm. Absolutely, absolutely. And I think you said something very important there, right? Which a lot of people think of diversity of multiple things, but one of the things that I do agree with as a result of diversity is key to innovation. I like that you actually said that. Talk about how diversity helps with innovation.
I think it's the different perspectives.
Yeah. Mm,
And well, first off, the data shows, right? So there's some data out there. I forget if it's BCG or Fortune or whomever, but basically those companies that have more diverse management teams are making close to 20% more revenue,
mm,
right, when compared to companies that don't have it.
yep.
And if you start looking below the covers, it's because those companies have been more innovative and been able to weather some of the disruptions within their respective industries. And I think that when you have too many like minds, too many like backgrounds, it's too easy to fall into groupthink,
Yep. Mm,
which you and I both know the dangers of that, right? And I think that it's I had another mentor, again, a consistent theme, that told me that nothing moves forward in life without friction.
yep.
And I think that diversity, when you have those different points of view, creates that friction. And I firmly believe that you need that friction to move forward. And so when you have these new ideas, these new backgrounds, especially when you start looking across the globe, um, I don't see how you could effectively compete on that stage without having all those different viewpoints and
Mm,
different points of view.
absolutely, absolutely. That was a McKinsey study that came out in 2018 that talked about diverse groups of management teams and corporations do have a bottom line that's much higher than their competing companies within their industry. No, that's wonderful. So Andrew, talk about you've come on the Black Heights show. What are your thoughts on Black Heights, man?
You know what I think, but I'll let everybody know. So I'm thrilled that you're doing this, that you're leading Black Heights. I think that especially since we're both in the Valley, you and I every day see the opportunity to do that,
Yep.
and to make the difference. And as I started off saying, I'm competitive. I like to win, and I firmly believe in the value of having those diverse opinions. And I think that one of the so as I was getting ready to talk to you, here and tonight, one of the things that caught me a little back was that you can see articles that talk about some of the statistics that are on the Black Heights site around how diversity is so critical, yet the percentages of minorities and different genders is so low
Yep.
in management positions, right? But these articles go back 10, 15 years, yet there's been all these corporate initiatives to drive that. And so I think that there needs to be a catalyst, and there needs to be a consistent push by organizations like Black Heights to keep the pressure on. And I think that the cream will rise to the top, and I think that the net effect will be better innovation, and from a company's goals, whether it's public shareholders, right, and cash flow, or if it's other goals, it's right for people, right? It's right for it's the right thing to do, but also it's financially beneficial in the corporate world. So I love what you're doing, and you know I want to be helpful any way I can to you, man.
Appreciate it, Andrew. Thank you so much for coming on the show, man. And not only that, just your perspective on diversity and how important it is, because it really is important. And I know a lot of the times, the big push now is for everybody to be an entrepreneur, but everybody isn't going to be an entrepreneur. And at the end of the day, we're going to have to start working for a corporation. And obviously, as corporations continue to grow and they want to compete, they're going to have diverse minds to be that, obviously the innovator, right, and be able to compete. So diversity is a huge initiative that Black Heights is pushing, and we're looking forward to having some diverse minds like yourself, man, to come on to the show and explain your background and your journey as well, too, man. So thank you for coming on, too,
Right.
Andrew. Mr. Frieza said, "You rather deal with an angry customer or a slow internet speed?" I think this may be a this or that one.
I'd rather deal with an angry customer.
Hmm.
At least I have the opportunity to have a conversation, maybe change a mind. You can't change the internet. That's just frustrating.
That is good. You can resolve that in a timely manner from a customer standpoint, but slow internet speed
I
does suck.
oh
Yes,
my gosh, so it's
it's a
so
disruption.
painful, and we're yes, I'm pretty sure it's a first world problem, but I'd much rather deal with an angry customer.
Wow, wow, that is a first world problem. All right, so SOBC said, how do you connect the business strategy of a product and the overall strategy of the company? Ooh, good question.
Yeah, so I think that's a great question. I think that theory and practice are always very different things. I think that we do a pretty good job of it here, but it comes down to leadership, right, and communication of the vision, understanding the vision and where the market's going. Um, I think that if you think about, the CEO level, and typically there, like with most things, there's two or three top initiatives, right, and then you kind of trickle down and you think about in our group, we have multiple product groups. And so the question is, how do we fit in? So at HPE, we have hybrid IT, right, which may not mean anything to the folks on the call, but basically it's this idea that companies historic used to have all of their IT infrastructure in their building, or they would own it all.
Yep.
But with things like cloud computing, right now they have some that's inside their data center, inside their four walls, and some that's in Amazon or Google or Microsoft or you name it, Salesforce. And so the question is, how can we, as a company that's been around for 80 years, compete? And so you start looking at, what our CEO says, which is we want to change the way people live and work. And so then we break it down into hybrid IT, the products that we sell to enable that. And then within hybrid IT, we have our initiatives, and then we look at our product and how does it align to those initiatives. And then we start to stack rank our priorities based on how do we deliver to those high level goals, but then also hit the financial metrics that we have to hit to. So that then it becomes a balancing act at that point. It's not easy, and it takes a lot of discussion and a lot of debate. But at a high level, that's how we intend to bring it all together.
Awesome, awesome. Hope that answers your question, SOBC. Mrs. Tamara Wade, my sister said, how do you know when a product is designed well?
So I would say that that when it's designed well, when it does what the customer needs for it to do, and that what the customer needs to do and what you had intended to do are in alignment. Now that's very nebulous, admittedly, but you work on some assumptions when you design a product or when you call out the requirements, and it can be frustrating when you have a view of what your customer is and it's different, and how the customer will always find a way to you can't have 100% coverage of a customer's problem, but you want to make sure that your product actually solves that customer's problem and that it does more positive than introduce challenge into whatever they do. I have a lot of technology context, so that's where most of my examples come from. But we want our technology to improve how our customers do their business,
Hmm.
and so that's as long as it does that, then it's in line. But it's certainly a lot easier said than done.
Yep, yep, very good, very good. When a product meets your customer's needs and does more good than introduce challenges, I love it. Very well stated as well. SOBC said your answer to the business strategy was awesome as well too. So let's do a quick shift here, Andrew. Um, let's talk about yourself because you talked about going to Atlanta tomorrow to be with the family and get them to move out to San Jose. So let's talk about this. How do you balance, work being a product manager, having a family, being long distance away from the family? How do you balance that all?
So I don't know that I'm balancing it that well, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a wonderful support system in my wife. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, she is just my rock. She's letting me live a dream of, there's no better place in the world to get into tech than Silicon Valley. There's plenty of wonderful places. Atlanta's got a great tech scene. Austin, Boulder, Boston, New York, you name all these places. That's just in the U.S., right? But for what I want to do, and given my background, this is the best place for me to be. and she's willing to, give up the great place that Atlanta is to take a chance.
Mm.
And she has done pretty much everything as far as getting the house ready to sell. We have 2 kids and managing that, and it's a great motivator
Mm-hmm.
to do that. But I think that when we all get together, when I go home, they're my priority, right? Without question, and spend time and make sure that I can be there, be hopefully a positive example for my kids, and then try to relieve my wife of just all that she has to deal with when I'm not there. But yeah, it's been a challenging 9 months, but nothing in life ever comes easy, right?
Yep.
And just like yourselves, we'd be nothing without our rocks by our side.
Nah, you're absolutely right about that. You're absolutely right about that. That is, I would say that's exactly why we do it as well, right? And that's exactly why we work hard. Is because we do have such a wonderful support system, and it's almost as if like we're doing an obligation by having such a wonderful support system, and you want to work harder just from the fact that you have
You don't want to
someone
waste
who's
it,
holding
man.
it down. Exactly.
You,
Exactly.
you, you don't want to waste it because you only get one chance at this thing
Yep.
we call life.
Yep.
And if you're fortunate enough to find that person that buys into to you, then you're going to leave it to where there's nothing left in your tank.
Mm. Mm. Well said, man. Well said, brother. So, um, for anyone watching this video, and if they joined in the middle, let's talk about 3 takeaways that you want to leave them with. Um, that's going to resonate with them from our conversation tonight. And then I want to do something else after that. And actually, before that, let's talk about this product management. I don't ask the questions and personally how salaries and stuff like that, but give a range. If someone wants to become a product manager, right? What are they looking at as far as a range and a pay scale? What would you say that would be? So that's something we don't ever talk about here on Black Heights, but the fields of study that we are all in are lucrative positions in corporations, whether it's inside sales, outside sales. I know people
Yeah.
who are in outside sales making a $500,000 a year, right? And you can certainly do that with inside sales and stuff like that. So talk to just give a range, and from a product manager standpoint, what is a salary range of a product manager?
So it all depends on the region, right? So I would say that you're looking at anywhere from 150 to 250,
Wow.
depending on the region.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that having the opportunity of being in sales to your point can be incredibly lucrative. And so talking somebody earlier in the chat room had talked about pay is not everything, that's experience. And um, this again goes into the whole consistent path of me working for free when I was growing up. But when you leave sales, very oftentimes it's a pay cut effectively.
Mm-hmm.
But you also get to do things when you don't have a quota that's hanging around your neck,
Mm.
and you get to have different views of the business, and you get to have a much broader impact than just a small subset of customers. You get to impact hundreds, if not thousands, of customers,
Yeah.
and so you kind of have that trade off there. So it's just I think that and Glassdoor actually when I looked at when I was fortunate to come across this role, I looked at Glassdoor and it was pretty accurate.
Wow. Yeah.
But I think that if you look at depending on the region and all those kind of things, then you'll probably find yourself in about that range.
Lucrative position, guys. Very, very lucrative position, guys. I tell people now all the time, let's go into sales. Sales should be a role that everyone should have an opportunity to
So you're
join.
not kidding.
It is.
I think that and it's people have a different connotation of sales, right? They think of the used car salesperson,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
it can there's going to be people like that in any function of a company, but to even if you spend 1 or 2 years in front of customers and getting the good feedback and bad feedback and actually understanding how your customers buy and interact with your products, and how products are marketed and how they're actually bought and sold are so very different. If you can get that experience and bring it to another part of a business, whether it's finance, HR, you name it, there's no way you can't be valuable,
Yeah.
because some people will be experts in a particular um, engineering or supply chain, and they may be experts at that, but at least you can help them bring some outside context because it's just typically it's not until you get that kind of experience or you get in front of a whole group of customers that you can really get that view of the world.
Absolutely, absolutely. Sales it is. So, for anyone watching, Andrew, let's jump back to that question. What are 3 takeaways that you want to resonate with them?
So first off, I love product management. Sales is great. I love product management. You get that view of the business, which is fantastic. But in all seriousness, I think that the biggest thing is mentors. I don't think
Mm,
that it really dawned on me until we had this conversation because I don't talk about it a whole lot. But find a mentor. Don't be afraid to ask for it.
mm,
Um, it's amazing the people that have been willing to help me. I remember even if you ask people one-off questions via LinkedIn, you'd be surprised who will respond. We had an executive from one of the big companies in Atlanta that came and talked to us, and I asked him how to balance work and life because it was actually Glenn Laurie, right? So CEO of AT&T Mobility.
yep,
The one thing I took away from his conversation and was how this guy's in this position, and yet he was talking about his son's soccer game
yep,
and how he was cognizant of that schedule. And so I asked him, how do you balance it? He said early mornings, which sounds so simple, but you and I both know that it's time management that goes into that. But
yes,
you never know where we can get that feedback from. So mentors is one. Two is to always be curious, because you never know where you could end up positively or not so positively. But I never would have guessed that I'd be doing what I'm doing now a year ago, and I feel incredibly fortunate to do that, both talking to you and then also product management in California for HPE. So that's great. Um, and then number three, you know, don't be afraid to take chances
mm,
because those hard things that people want, you need to take those chances. So
mm.
that's my approach to things, and I think that so far it's worked, and then we'll see how long this ride goes.
Awesome, awesome. Let me repeat those. Find a mentor and don't be afraid to ask for it. Always be curious. And number 3, don't be afraid to take chances. No, I love it, Andrew. I absolutely love it. Um, let's do this for the folks who want to know more about product management. What are some ways that they can, reach out to you? You got a LinkedIn. Do you have
Yep.
a Twitter or anything like that where they can find a little bit more about, product management and things like that?
So hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm
Okay.
happy to help anybody. There's certainly no shortage of books out there. One that we're using right now and have a whole development program around is Crossing the Chasm.
Mm,
So I definitely recommend that. But then, yeah, again, nobody gets anywhere alone. So if there's anyone out there that I can be of help to, that I can add any bit of insight to, I'm happy to help and just reach out anytime.
appreciate it, Andrew. Appreciate it. Guys, we have no more questions in the chat. What a wonderful show tonight from Mr. Murphy coming in, telling his story, his journey, giving us a better understanding of product management in that role in general, and how to, do a couple of things in life, right? Or the importance of mentorship, but also being curious. And last, not being afraid to take risks. These are all takeaways that we can use, not just in our corporate life, but also in our daily lives as well. And Andrew, thank you so much for sharing that with us, my man. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in to another Black Heights live cast. We've had 2 this week, and we're going to have a couple more next week as well, too. As always, don't forget to like, subscribe to the video, and share it as well, too. And until next time, guys, peace.
Have a great night.